So yes, we do have quorum.
Fantastic, thank you. So welcome, and with confirmation we have quorum, I'll call this meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. So we've got a few formalities first, and then we've got some guests with us today. So first item is to approve the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? You can use your virtual hand or just wave at me. Moved by Hal, seconded by Johnson. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Next, we will need to confirm the minutes of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting number 02-2024 held on April 29th, 2024. If there are no amendments, just sort of scanning. If we have no amendments, can I please have a mover and a seconder? And moving and seconding doesn't mean anything other than we're putting it on the floor. So you can just raise your hand. Any of the committee members are welcome to do it. Thank you. Moved by Nada, seconded by Dwayne. Thank you. All those in favor? And this is where you vote. Fantastic. Opposed? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. All right. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item. So there are no delegations today, but we do have a briefing. So next we will have a briefing from Vanessa Mensah, our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Manager. Vanessa will be introducing Aaliyah Strawn and Tiana Edwards, who will brief the committee about the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office report for Q2 of 2024. Just so everyone's aware, after the briefing, you're able to ask questions, as many as you like, and we will go from here. So Vanessa, I will turn it over to you. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Madam Chair, I'm curious to know, am I able to present, to share an opening about the Emancipation Day and then have Aaliyah and Tiana speak right after me and then continue on with the rest of my presentation? Am I able to do that?
I think that's entirely appropriate. I'll just check with the clerk. If that's allowed, then I think as chair, I'm fine with that.
That would be fine. You can speak so long as you don't have a visual presentation. And we have 10 minutes for a briefing as well.
That's okay. Fine. Yes, that works for me. Okay. And so today we have with us, just 1 second, just exit out of this this full screen here. So today we have Aaliyah and we have Tiana, who are the co-chairs of Emancipation Day and they've been working as part of the working group. I've invited the group here, the co-leads here, to provide you an update about what they've been working on and to share a little bit about what's being planned for August 1st, as well as August 3rd. So I'm going to invite Aaliyah and Tiana to speak.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Aaliyah Strawn, and I'll be working on the presentation with Tiana. So we're just going to go briefly overview of the events from Thursday, August 1st to the 3rd. May I have the next slide, please? So a little bit about us, and then we're going to go into the breakdown of each day's of events and talk about the historical significance of each of them. Next, please. So my name is Aaliyah Strawn. I'm a creative project manager, specialization in heritage, community mobilization, museums, arts and culture, and the like. If you recognize me locally, I'm the president of the Rotaract Club of Kingston, as well as a city leader for the Gals at Brunch Kingston chapter.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiana Edwards. My pronouns are she, her. I run and founded the blog Keep Up with Kingston that houses a Black-owned business list. I mention that because it plays into a bit of what we'll talk about later in our presentation. I also am an equity, diversity, and inclusion coordinator at the University at Queen's, and so I work at the Yellow House Students Center for Equity and Inclusion to help give queer and racialized students a sense of belonging. I also have a podcast called Kingston the Black Experience. So that's a bit about me, and I'm excited to let you know more about our plans for Emancipation Day.
Next slide, please.
Yes. Thank you. So, for those who may not be aware, to give you a refresher on the overall significance of Emancipation Day, it is celebrated on August 1st and marks the enactment of the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 across the British Empire. Now, there's a long impact and ties to anti-Black racism and how it shows up in our community today. And so, in alignment with Kingston's ongoing commitment to the acknowledging of Canada's history of enslaving African and Indigenous peoples, a group of us, Black Kingstonians, were invited to participate in an informal working group to explore ideas for recognizing and celebrating the day. So we've been meeting for the last couple of months, I would say. It's June already, wow. So I'd say since the end of March to April to now, on our plans for Emancipation Day. Next slide, please. So in our group meetings, we've kind of come together and decided on what we wanted to focus on for Emancipation Day weekend from August 1st to the 3rd. And we've curated a lot of really great events, which we'll get into, but the events include activities, a flag raising ceremony, art exhibitions, live music, film screenings, and cultural events to raise awareness and education for the community and its significance to Emancipation Day. Next slide, please.
So to kick it off, we're going to have a flag raising ceremony on the 1st of August. It's going to be at noon at Confederation Park with the rain location of Memorial Hall. Essentially, it's going to be in both French and English to acknowledge the impact of enslavement and its connections to anti-Black racism, while also highlighting like the municipal government's commitment to eradicating anti-Black racism and supporting these kind of initiatives. So we have invited a few members of the community, including some of the council members, members of parliament, the mayor, and other significant community members, or just it is open to the public as well. So basically, it's going to be the formal opening of Emancipation Day and activities that will follow, and to help us raise public awareness. So for the flag, it's going to be the RBG flag, which is a sign of Pan-Africanism and Black liberation. And also this flag has been raised in other cities like Nova Scotia, like Halifax, Nova Scotia, and also in Shelburne, Ontario. So that's where we kind of got that precedence from. Right after the flag raising, we're going to have the unveiling of the niche case, which we're also working on with the Heritage Services Department. And that is also going to talk about the significance of Emancipation Day, historically, present day, and aspirations for the future. Next, please. And then we also have a film screening project. So the film screening is going to be in collaboration with the screening room on Thursday the 1st as well. So essentially there's going to be a short film and 2 documentaries. So the first short film is Joy's Garden. So essentially it's about an absent father mending his relationship with his daughter. Whereas the documentary is episode 1 and 2. It's called Restitution 101 and it's by Chow and Negritello, and they're Kenyan artists. So basically it explores the complex and violent manipulative ways that heritage items of African culture have been adopted into Western museums and private collections. And it also goes to talk about how this heritage is being reclaimed and repurposed into their rightful homes. Followed by that, there is going to be a conversation by the filmmakers and moderators that we have established. And also on the 2nd, we're working with the public library to do a children's-based film screening about movies that, the movies will be the base learning material and prompt further discussion about the different authenticities of Blackness and the Black love experience in Canada and like internationally. Next, please.
Okay, and so on the Saturday, we are going to have the Black Bloc Party. We say this because it's going to be a collection of vendors across the Black diaspora, including 5 Black food vendors, Black entrepreneurs, Black artists, and they will have different setups along Ontario Street in front of City Hall as well as in Confederation Park all day long. And so to mark some of the significance of this, I'll provide more context when I talked about the Black-owned business list. Many years ago, 5 years ago, on Keep Up with Kingston, I shared about my experiences with anti-Black racism in Kingston, and it got a lot of traction. It had almost 20,000 hits. So instead of making it about myself, I started the Black-owned business list, and now it's been growing. We have lots and lots of businesses on that. And it's been a really great tool for Kingstonians to make sure that they are involved and engaged with Black entrepreneurs in Kingston. As we know, it is very hard to run a business, and also it's very hard to run a business as a visible minority, and specifically in the Black community. So it's really great to be able to have this day to acknowledge and share all of the awesome vendors that we have here in the city of Kingston. I will say this helps in terms of representation of the Black community for our young people, and also it gives people a lot of context as to the businesses that might not be along Princess Street and are a bit harder to find in some ways. So last year we got a lot of really great feedback from all members of our community and how great it was to be able to find Nigerian food on Ontario Street or find Jamaican food on Ontario Street. So we're really excited to have a lot of different businesses. Outside of the food, which I'm always really excited to talk about, we will also have a lot of great things for children on this day at the Black Bloc Party. So there'll be Ruthie's Reading Room will be there, who is a local community leader and on the Black-owned business list. She'll be reading and having activities for young children to engage in the importance of Emancipation Day and what it can mean at that level, at a child level. So we're really pumped about that. And we will have performances from about 5 musicians who are local and Black artists in our community. So we are pumped to have music and dancing and food and childhood activities. I'm aware of the time, so I'm rushing through, but it's on the slide. We have a lot of really great events happening on that day from 11 to 4. We also have Agnes Etherington Art Center engaging. So they have an artist who's from Ethiopia who will be leading a session as well all day long that will be free to the community, and they can stop in and participate as well. So lots happening. I will leave room for questions. We're very excited. And that's our next slide, is just questions from you on our events for Emancipation Day, but I hope that we covered most of it through our presentation. Thank you for having us today, and thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you very much. Vanessa, there's still about a minute left. Did you want to add anything before we move to questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, maybe I'll give the minute back to Aaliyah and Tiana, maybe to chime in if there's anything else that they feel is important for us to hear and to know.
Sure.
We're grateful to have you guys for having us here today, and we'd love to see all of you guys there with your families about the various events, and it would just be great to have the full community involved in everything.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. I will open it up now to committee members. If you have any questions you would like to ask, please raise your hand. Nada, I see you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was such a great presentation. My question is, we know right now Kingston received, like in the latest months, refugees from Congo and from Rwanda, and it has been like an activity to fundraise and do activities to raise money for these newcomers. Have you thought about any activity that can help this minority, since they are new also in Kingston? And that would be such a great idea to connect with the community here. So have you thought about anything related to fundraising or activities for these people?
Yeah,
Vanessa, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, Nada, that's a really great question, and I appreciate you bringing that forward. There are lots of work that we're doing in our department to ensure that how the newcomers to Kingston are being recognized and are being celebrated, and of course, we're having the resources that they need to remain in our community. this event is a little bit different. And so there's no specific tie to that, but rather the celebration of the Blackness in Kingston. And so I do welcome your ideas, and I'm happy to speak with you offline to see other ways that we can collaborate, and to, of course, to hear more about what you have on your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hal, go ahead.
We go. Yeah, this may be a dumb question, and I apologize. I'm wondering how, like, I have a Black Jamaican family. How would they learn about all these? Like, will there be publicity through the internet, or how can I put them onto this?
Aaliyah.
Thanks. That's actually a really good question. So we do have a webpage, which I'm happy to drop in the Zoom chat for all of us. It's going to be regularly updated. In addition to that, all the individual events will have their own respective marketing plan that is set to go out more likely the early to mid-July. So if you'd like, Hal, I'll drop you the link and you can direct that directly to them. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll also recognize Vanessa. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Aaliyah, I'm not sure that you'll be able to share a link, but if you are able, I will send, if you can send it to me, I'll make sure that Hal has that link. And I just wanted to add that, you know, on the city's website, there's a page called the featured events page. And so how all that information will also be there in addition to what Aaliyah is sharing with us today.
Thank you. Any further questions today? Seeing none. Aaliyah and Tiana, thank you so much for sharing all of this information with us. I know I'm looking forward to it, and I expect you'll see a lot of committee members and their families out that day. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to the business section of the meeting. So we have the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office report for Q2 2024, and I will invite staff to introduce this report.
Okay, and so thank you once again, and I appreciate both Aaliyah and Tiana sharing and bringing forth what they're working on in the community. As we mentioned this year, really the idea is to continue to engage the community. The idea is not to sit in silos at the city and work on events alone, but to really engage the community as a whole. Also on the call today, I have my colleague with me who was asked to bring an update to you about the parking. I know there were some questions around parking and the accessibility of parking. And so I want to invite my colleague. I don't see him on the screen anymore, but are you here with us? Lego? Okay, yes. Would you like to maybe just bring forth an overview of some of the findings? Just a really quick a presentation about what was asked about the parking.
Certainly. So it was brought to my attention. Oh, by the way, my name is Larry Lego. I'm the parking manager of parking and licensing operations here for the city of Kingston. So it was brought to my attention when we brought forward a motion to council to have the fee reduced on honk to try and make sure that persons utilizing honk didn't have to pay an extra 25% fee when paying for parking. And I guess there was some confusion around the fact that by implementing honk, we were actually reducing the payment options that were made available to the public. So in the summary, I've outlined some of the changes we've done over the last couple of years. If anything, all we're doing is enhancing the payment options available to everyone. So not only can you pay by coin, but in most situations, particularly on street now, you can pay by credit card, debit card, Google Pay, Apple Pay. By introducing honk everywhere on street, we're also making payments a little more accessible, particularly during winter months when individuals who do utilize the accessible parking areas may have difficulties actually climbing snowbanks or, walking icy conditions such they can actually utilize our app. Now, the apps are not just credit card payments. There's also what is referred to as the Visa debit, MasterCard debit cards, which most large banks are currently utilizing. So it's similar in the fact that these debit cards transactions are actually being transmitted via the credit card systems. However, it's still a debit card transaction. So even if people don't have credit cards, they can still utilize it with many of the debit cards that are out there. In addition to that, I think, you know, particularly with the single space meters, we are introducing new meters this year. We're still waiting for confirmation on deployment. But again, those meters will provide a little more choice in terms of what type of payment options are available to everyone. That's kind of like just a brief summary.
Thank you, Laird. Vanessa, did you have anything else you wanted to summarize for the committee?
Yes, I just want to highlight one more important fact that just through the discovery of this process, I was also informed that in May 2024, Council absorbed, as you read in the report, absorbed the 25 cents convenient fees that are being paid by Conch users. And so that was one more way that that we are cities making sure that how folks are able to utilize this and are not paying extra for the services. And so I did invite Laird Lego here today, my colleague, so that he can maybe answer any follow-up questions on this specific report.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions from committee members? You can just raise your hand. And this is about, sorry, let me just clarify. So questions from committee can be about anything in the report today. It doesn't just have to be about the parking. Thanks, Abraham, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, first of all, I apologize for not showing my face because there is something wrong with my camera here on my laptop. Sorry about that. The thing I want to bring to the community is that, you know, when we send out the agenda and the minutes of meeting, I would suggest that the minutes of meeting should be sent out earlier than the next meeting agenda, because the minutes of meeting should be sent out, say, maybe a couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks after the meeting happens, so that the members can go through the minutes of meeting and see what has been discussed, and if they want to include any other points in the next meeting agenda, they can prepare you know, beforehand. So my suggestion is that, you know, instead of sending both the minutes of meeting and the agenda for the meeting together, say a week ago, you know, ahead of the meeting, please make that into 2 separate, you know, communications. The minutes of meeting after, say, a couple of weeks after the actual meeting, and the agenda maybe before, I mean, a couple of weeks before the next meeting. That's my suggestion.
Thanks, Abraham. Is it okay if I interrupt for just a sec to ask if the clerk would like to respond?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Allison.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. It is the process in the clerk's office to make the agenda public the Friday before the meeting. And the process is that we send out the previous meeting minutes and the agenda to the committee members the week before the meeting. So unfortunately, that is the process through our office. If Ian would like to add, that would be great.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. So yes, I'm Ian Sullivan, and many of you might remember I was the previous clerk for this committee. So the minutes are only the official record of the meeting. They're not intended to be like to generate new business, but what you can do is if you have an idea you would like on the agenda, reach out to the clerk before the meeting. It could be at any time before the meeting. It could be right after the meeting today. It could be the week of the creation of the agenda, and we'll work with you, and our staff will work with you to get the item on the agenda as a as either like a communication item or as a discussion item. So I hope that's helpful, and thank you.
So Ian, just to clarify, am I understanding that this suggestion is something that the committee could discuss, but that would be at the next meeting with it on the agenda? Is that right?
So through you, Madam Chair. So the process for the minutes is kind of the process. We could discuss bringing new options before the committee a bit faster, or options related to the the question and everything. But yeah, so I would suggest that you reach out to Allison beforehand and see what you would actually like to be added to the agenda, and then we'll work to be able to put it on the agenda. Thank you.
Sounds good. So Abraham, I will connect with you offline and we will move from there on that request. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. Abraham, sorry, did you have anything else you wanted to ask at this time?
No, that's it. That's it from my side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hal, I see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure this fits where we're at in today's agenda, but the report, which by the way, I praise Vanessa for arranging. In the executive summary, it talks about, it includes information on internal corporate and community-wide engagement. So I'm interested in the community-wide engagement part. I think there was going to be a consultant hired by the city, and I'm wondering how and what will happen in terms of how that consultant will engage with the community. Will there be a chance for any citizen to make input to that consultant?
Okay, thank you, Hal. Vanessa, would you like to answer that one? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, Hal, I just do want to bring you an update that we actually have signed a contract, and it is finally, it's been a long road, but we have started our work with MMP. That is the consultant that has been hired and that will be doing our work with. And so as part of that, we have created priority groups that we are asking for the consultant to consult with. And so one of those groups is this group, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory, Cities Advisory Committee group. And so that would be one of the groups that the consultant would be engaging with.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Any further questions, Hal?
No, that's it. Thank you, Councillor Dean.
Okay, you're welcome. I just want to remind committee members that we have 2 items on the agenda that staff were looking for feedback on. We've got Welcome to Kingston Day, and also we've got the illumination policy review. So I actually have a question about the illumination policy, which maybe I'll take my turn since I don't see any hands up. So I was wondering a couple of things. So when it comes to the illumination policy, I noticed we've got a list of significant dates. I noticed, in my opinion, 2 that I thought might be missing. I was wondering about the addition of Earth Day, April 22nd, and I was wondering about the addition of National Accessibility Week, which we just had at the end of May, beginning of June. So yeah, just sort of looking to understand, what's this committee's role in terms of this policy, and if we think there should be changes, how do we go about that?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, just to give a quick overview. And so currently right now, there is the illumination policy that has 32 specific identified days that City Hall is illuminated. What I'm quickly learning is that these dates are not always reflective of what the community wants to see City Hall illuminated. So rather than having these set days that always happen every year, the thought is to engage this group. Just Today is just a day to just introduce the idea to you, to see if this is something that you think it's a good idea or not a good idea, but not necessarily to engage in the process today, because we want to dedicate good time to this. And so the idea is to look at what are those days that are meaningful to the community. So when we think back to 2023 and 2022, City Hall was illuminated 150 days out of the 360 days, which then defeats the purpose. So we want, whenever the city hall is illuminated, for it to be impactful and for it to be meaningful. But it also has to be what the community sees valuable. And so I do agree with you that there are some significant days that are missing. For example, one of the requests that has come forward to me was, and I again shared this so that you understand some of the requests that do come, was for City Hall to be illuminated permanently for the London attack, the family that was attacked in that was in London, for it to be a permanent stand-in. And so my conversation with the group was, this is one of those that I'm going to bring to this larger group to say, is this something that you want to see illuminated every year? And so I'm hoping that for next year, this group is able to come up with ideas about days that need to be illuminated. So it could be all of the days that we see, some of the days that we see, but I was hoping for this group to decide what is significant for the city of Kingston. And so I think some of the ideas that you've highlighted, like Earth Day and some of those other days, I think are really important, and hoping to hear from the committee, what other days might be missing? What days can we do without? So when you look at the 32 national and provincial days of observances, another example would be that there is many days that recognize matters of 2S LGBTQIA. There's several, about eight or so. And so is there a need maybe to reduce that to maybe 3 of the most significant ones? Again, wanting to engage this group in some of those discussions, because we're hearing that there are a lot of requests that are coming to the city, and at times we are having to make these decisions and say yes or no, but wanting to engage this broader group. And so that's why the policy review, that's why we're asking for the policy to be reviewed and to engage in more discussions. I see that Ruth Nordergraaf wants to comment.
Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. I just wanted to add, and sorry for those of you that have not met me, I'm Ruth Nordergraaf. I'm the Director of Community Development, Wellbeing and IDEA. In addition to Vanessa, we also really recognize that this committee and every advisory committee, obviously we would like to kind of use your knowledge and skills to create more of an ongoing engagement on this policy. So our hope, and I think this is why Vanessa wrote this in the report, is to maybe also embed this as an annual process. Because it's also not a static policy, to Vanessa's point. Like, there's a lot of changing events and activities, and as staff, we feel like we could really benefit from this entity as a committee to have a bit of an ongoing annual review process for this policy, because it's such an important kind of symbolic and kind of foundational piece of this community. And we recognize that you have some really great skill sets around this table that could help us to make those decisions. So again, we're really bringing this forward as an initial, to ask if you feel like this is something the committee could do. And if you're comfortable with that, we would probably, and Vanessa, I'm looking at you, I think we talked about the fall, bring an actual dedicated report or a dedicated agenda item to actually go through them, and so you can come prepared with ideas and suggestions.
Thank you both. Just one follow-up question to that. So in my opinion, I think that this committee doing that work is a brilliant idea. I think that's a meaningful contribution that everyone here can make. My question though is, when it comes to groups that are not represented here in this committee, how are we making sure we're getting the best information? Like an example I had reached out to you about was, I believe today actually is Saint Jean Baptiste Day, and my children are Franco-Ontariens, so they celebrate that day, but not this day. And I just was wondering, how do we make sure that we're, if there are things that are maybe able to let go of for whatever reason, I'm not saying that is, I have no opinion either way, but how are we making sure we're consulting with the right people to make sure we don't deeply offend anyone? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, one of the things that we're doing differently this year as well too is what you're seeing, the list of events that you're seeing are significant days that you're seeing on this. We contact groups and ask, hey, what is it that you're doing? How can we amplify your voice? And that's how we're engaging different groups. And so you're right in that there are different significant days, and this is not to say it cannot be added to it. And so another group can call in and say, we would like to City Hall to be illuminated, and that we would illuminate it if it falls within the policy. And I invite the clerk to also speak a bit more to that if and to correct me if I'm wrong. But we are also able to add to the illuminations of what has been set in this policy. This becomes like the ones that are the standard for the year. As I said, we're hoping for this to be a yearly review, and so it would be for the year, but can be added on. And for what we have identified as the yearly standard, we are still committed to engaging with the groups to ensure that whatever is being done, that we are amplifying what is being done and also understanding. And to your point about the missing voices that are at this table, there are a few that our office will ensure that does not get missed, given that they are more of a national or they are a provincial recognition. And so, as I mentioned in my first report, I believe in Q1 or last year, we are engaging with Canadian CCDI, Canadian Center for Diversity and Institute. They've created a calendar, and that calendar really gives us a really a good highlight of all the different events that are happening, all the different celebrations and awareness and observances that we also are able to like match with our policy. And so as I prepare the next follow-up with this, I will include that calendar so that folks are able to see the entire complement of the observances that exist and are relevant to Canadians and also around the world. And then that way we're able to draw from that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Just one final comment for me, and then I'll open it up again to if anyone else has questions. The Pride bus in the Pride Parade was such a huge hit. People loved it, and I have to say I'm really happy to see that around Kingston as sort of a more permanent fixture. So thank you for that. Did any other committee members have questions they would like to ask?
Madam Chair, can I just please respond to your
Yes,
last comment? Thank you for those kind words. And I do want to let the group know that we have 4 more buses being released. Again, it was important that, I know it's a small token, but wanting to ensure that folks are seen, heard, and are felt included in our community. And so we do have 4 more buses coming out, and I will share what they are. There's the Every Child Matter bus that's going to be out before September, the Truth and Reconciliation. We're going to have an anti-racism bus that's going to talk to anti-racism within Kingston, where to go for support, and what it is, what it looks like. So you're going to see that as well too. And then we have Emancipation Day bus coming, again, recognizing and celebrating the perseverance of Black people in Kingston, in Canada. Again, and these are all part of the what council has asked us to recognize as a community.
Thank you very much. Sunita, over to you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Again, congratulations on all that great work, and great to hear about the other buses that are coming, Vanessa. That's awesome. Regarding the elimination policy, I also wanted to find out about, there was a commemoration strategy years ago that was crafted that I remember I was a part of, and the elimination strategy was sort of like an offshoot of that. Is there that greater commemoration strategy, and this is where naming streets and park benches and whatever, and then perhaps while we tackle elimination, that can also be part of the scope for this committee to look at and review?
Thanks, Anita. Ruth, go ahead.
Thank you, and to you, Madam Chair. Great question. I know there's, to your point, multiple components to commemoration. Like we do have the benches, the trees, the illumination of City Hall. So there is, we do have that strategy. I will be honest, I will have to go and look at when that has been last updated, but I know with the work of Vanessa and her team, there is, definitely a focus on the continuation of the EDI lens and that strategy. But yes, there's multiple components to it. There's also broader commemoration around maybe actual larger kind of, how do you say it? Ways of actually building something. I know we have conversations around intimate partner violence and gender-based violence. Like there's other kind of commemoration conversations happening across the corporation and the community. So unless one of my colleagues have something to add on the status of the broader commemoration strategy, that might be a really good piece to bring back and kind of give the committee some updates on as well on the other elements of it.
Okay, thank you. Vanessa, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, Sunita, I think that it's how we're approaching some of these changes is looking at what we are able to do immediately within our scope right now, and then also looking at some of the broader changes that need to happen. And so sometimes these projects are so large, and so we're almost taking it in processes and in pieces. And so that one for sure is one that I know that it's on the radar, that as Ruth has mentioned. And so as we focus and as we get this right, we're going to move on to the next piece of the puzzle. And so just want to let you know that how certainly that is something that I know that was brought to, you were part of that conversation. And I know that there's still work being done in the background, but that wanted to focus on this piece, and then also of course bringing in some of those other elements as well too.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions from members of committee? Councillor Hassan? You'll have to unmute first so we can hear you.
Sorry, it's not a question, just want to comment and add on and reminding the committee that city has approved a 2-year project for the Multicultural Community Center. That's it.
Thank you. All right. So Vanessa, did you want to speak to that? I see your hand.
Yes, I wanted to provide a bit more context just so for people who are not aware. And so the council has approved for the use of the for multicultural use and to be able to provide facility use for different groups. And so we're working on that. This is another one that will be coming to this group, since Councillor Hassan has brought it up, that we're really hoping to engage you in that process and ask, how do we ensure that this process is fair? It's accessible, that we don't create more barriers for folks who are trying to use and groups who are trying to use these groups. And so we're trying to use these spaces and want to provide that a bit of overview for you, for those who haven't read that through.
Thank you. So last call, any members of committee with questions? Oh, Sunita, thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, not necessarily a question, but more of a comment. The recent reopening of the Bellevue House has really exemplified how things can be redone in terms of community engagement, consultation, and how the narratives that had been left out for so long are being included. So if we are going to, even if it's something as a community center that we're opening up, a multicultural community center, again, making sure that voices that are going to be impacted are included. And that model was just so terrific. And I encourage everyone, if you haven't been to the Bellevue House recently, to take the time to go there, and how they've included all voices. And I think if we can be intentional, and take some of these success stories or good examples and let them inform us in our work, it would be a positive step in the right direction. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll check with the clerk now. Are there any questions from members of the public?
Thank you. And through you, we do not have any members of the public with us today.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, this is a bit out of order, but I just want to confirm, does anyone have any questions about the Welcome to Kingston Day that hasn't been touched on yet? Seeing none. Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, so thank you to staff for this information report, much appreciated. We're moving on. So there are no motions and there are no notices of motion. I see no other business and nor correspondence. So the next meeting of the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee is scheduled for Monday, August 26, 2024 at 1 p.m. With that, we can move to adjourn. So can I please have a mover and a seconder? And again, it can be any member of the committee. Thank you. Moved by Abraham, seconded by Nada. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed?